you can tell them about how actually, like providing free school breakfast and lunch to public school students is actually Stalinism. You can try that. I don't know how well that's going to go. Because, of course, the thing that Ben is advocating for isn't a temporary measure during a global pandemic. It's an indefinite use of state power to tell women what they can do when they become pregnant. So, is Ben sitting here, like, chastising Harris and Walz for not discussing policy enough? Did you watch the RNC? What policy proposals were discussed there? All right, Ben. Ben's got 6-minute react here. He's gonna stir up as much moral panic as he can. Let's see what he has to say.
So we have now seen the debut of Minnesota Governor Tim Walz on the national stage, and we saw Kamala Harris introduce him. So obviously, very, very high energy event. Kamala Harris is bringing out gigantic crowds. Democrats are, in fact, enthused. They brought out Josh Shapiro for a little bit of a consolation run. He yelled a bit, and his voice broke, and he talked a little bit about being Jewish, which gave Democrats cover to ignore the fact that the explicit reason they did not pick him is because he's a Jew. And then Kamala Harris...
we're already here, It's amazing. It's amazing how the right has spent so long saying that, like, liberals and the left, they call everybody a racist, people, J.D. Vance, like, they think Mountain fucking Dew was racist. And then Ben, of course, immediately when it's convenient, just falls right into identity politics and claims that they didn't pick Josh Shapiro because he's a Jew, It's not because his stance on Israel is unpopular with the American public generally, and they would like to not have all those uncommitted voters remain uncommitted. It's definitely not because of that, It's just the fact that he's Jewish. Which, of course, is weird because, most Jews in the United States were going to vote Democrat anyways. It's usually the case. I don't know. I guess if the Dems have taken this giant anti-Semitic turn, we'll see that in November, right? It'll show up.
Harris did an entire speech in which she really didn't talk about politics very much. It was just mostly about unity. She actually tried to channel Barack Obama / 2008, circa 2008. She was talking about red states and blue states. She was talking about how she was going to govern for all Americans. And then she gave you the background on Tim Walz. And apparently, according to Kamala Harris, the relevant stuff about Tim Walz is not that he presided over the burning down of Minneapolis and, in his own words, abjectly failed to stop that from happening. It's not...
I know Governor Walz is on the phone, and we spoke, and I fully agree with the way he handled it the last couple of days. I asked him to do that, and the whole world was laughing. 3 days later, I spoke to the governor. The governor's, I think, on the call, and he's an excellent guy. You've got a big National Guard out there that's ready to come in and fight like hell. I tell you, what they did in Minneapolis was incredible. They went in and dominated. And it happened immediately. Tim is on the phone now. Tim Walz. Again, I was very happy with the last couple of days, Tim. You called up big numbers, and the big numbers knocked them out so fast. It was like a bowling pin. Our city is grieving and in pain. And I would just say, as far as the potential of the peaceful protesters who are expressing an outrage that is real. They witnessed 8 minutes of a man dying in front of them. Well, at that point in time, I did something unprecedented. I mobilized the entire Minnesota National Guard, And that's what the president was alluding to, what the size of the force was capable. But I think, again, Mr. President, if you asked on explaining this, I would just say, it's going to be very difficult. There are bad actors in this, but there's such a legitimate anger. Our real dilemma here is the transition back is to the catalyst that sparked this across the country, and that was what happened with the Minneapolis Police Department. So what we did is a lot of this that you saw yesterday was engaging civic leaders and the peaceful protests. And I would just close with, I think the guidance is you got to get a handle on it, get that horse. That is absolutely correct. And then the transition in the next phase is trying to get those spaces for the peaceful protest. And I'm asking to do things that we have to look at of how do we get reform.
I don't know. Trump seemed to be fine with the way he handled it. Of course, Tim Walz there doing, the sensible thing, which is like, yeah, some of the protests were violent, but also we need to get some reforms in place and tackle, some of the underlying issues with what causes things like massive police violence, right? Actually tackle some of the socioeconomic issues that cause things like police violence, so we can just not have this happen again. Of course, Ben Shapiro is a hardened reactionary, so he's not going to do that. He's going to just naturalize it and chalk it up to whatever cultural tendencies of black people and or biological ones, and they're just inherently prone to violence and crime. And then when it happens, you just crush it with force, and that's it, right? That's Ben Shapiro's position basically on that. But Ben Shapiro's preferred presidential candidate seemed to be fine with the way Tim Walz handled it.
Not that he's praised socialism. It's not that he's blown out the budget to the tune of a 40% increase.
When did he praise socialism? I've never seen that.
In the last year. It's not that he has presided.
They have a budget surplus in Minnesota
over extraordinary fraud in the state of Minnesota. Of course, you wouldn't expect her to say any of those things. It's that if you go back far enough, he was a high school football coach. And don't you know, he's a teacher and a high school football. He's basically Mr. Feeney, but more athletic. He's like Ed Asner, avuncular, moderate, just one of the boys. A guy who can crack a beer and can shoot a rifle, but is also really, really in favor of gun control and transing the kids. That's basically the...
Okay, so what Ben's talking about here is Tim Walz being in favor of transing the kids. Tim Walz passed a bill that would provide tampons in public schools. The bill didn't say anything about where the tampons would be, nothing like that. The bill simply provided free tampons in public schools. Seems sensible, right? Now, of course, the right has taken this and said the tampons were in the boys' bathroom, therefore Tim Walz wants to trans the boys, because, of course, they're going to, start stoking as much moral panic as they can against whatever group it is they're scapegoating, in this case, trans people, to get you to vote for their preferred reactionary candidate, right? But it's bullshit. The bill just provided tampons in public schools.
Pitch in favor of Tim Walz. So she does this routine. These rallies are incredibly well choreographed. I will say that. They are very well choreographed. She calls for a chant, and a chant goes up. First Democratic rally I've seen for a while where people start actually cheering USA. And why are they cheering USA? Because she says, what an amazing country this is. What an incredible country where a person like me, middle-class person, or Tim Walz, middle-class person, can become the president and vice president of the United States. Now, I agree with that. But she doesn't agree with that. She believes that America is systemically racist. So does Tim Walz.
Okay, but Ben, that doesn't follow from, They're not mutually exclusive. You can believe the country has systemic racism and still think, in spite of that, you can become successful, right? That's not, those aren't mutually exclusive positions to hold. He's like frothing at the mouth, too. Why is he so, like, jittery?
Walz said back in 2020 that he believes that those riots were a reflection of the great evil that America represented. And yet
that's not what he said. He said it's been brewing for 400 years, and that's correct. Mostly because people like Ben, again, just naturalize the problem and don't actually care about doing anything that would lead to better outcomes.
Here they are doing the unity routine, and that's what is so false about all of this, is this idea that these folks are real reminders of what brings us together, that what they are really interested in more than anything else is governing for all Americans. They are radically to the left. This is why the Trump campaign has a moral obligation to remind the American people that these people are radically to the left. Okay, so that's all the...
Tim Walz, I don't know, man. Kamala Harris is a bit of a political chameleon, I think. Still better than Trump, but a bit of a political chameleon, you know, that's probably true. Tim Walz, in like basically all of the developed world, is a moderate, you know? Like Tim Walz, like, first of all, oh, we're going to remind the American people how radically to the left they are. Well, the policies, the social democratic policies that Tim Walz supports are ones that the overwhelming majority of the American public support in most cases. So, I mean, I guess you can try, you know. You can tell them about how actually, you know, like providing free school breakfast and lunch to public school students is actually Stalinism. You know, you can try that. I don't know how well that's going to go.
Intro to Tim Walz. Then Tim Walz gets up, and he's quite good. I mean, let's just be frank about this. Tim Walz gives a speech, and the speech is avuncular, and it's charming. He's smiling the whole time. He doesn't look uncomfortable smiling. He attacks J.D. Vance. He attacks Donald Trump, of course. The lowest point of the speech is his attempt to signal to his base that he'll take the gloves off with J.D. Vance. He makes some sort of dumb joke about J.D. Vance getting up off the couch, which is supposed to be a joke about a meme that was going around the internet about a false passage that doesn't exist in Hillbilly Elegy, supposedly J.D. Vance having some sort of sexual relationship with the couch. Is really stupid, but it's...
Yeah, I don't think the evidence is in favor of J.D. Vance actually, you know, having relations with a couch, right? However, I would question why that caught fire so quickly and so easily. Like, what is it about J.D. Vance that gives off the signal that people just, like, a priori accepted this this theory, you know?
Become a Democrat meme, and now you've got the vice presidential contender who's actually throwing that out there in public. Wink, not even stopped and said, you can see what I'm doing there. And that's the whole idea.
Of course, you know, Donald Trump would never make like a crass, inaccurate statement / joke about any of his political opponents. You know, straight class coming from Donnie T.
Here, meanwhile, don't worry, he's bringing Americans together. Now, at no point were the challenges that actually face...
I would say that if the goal there is to, like, you know, unite people against, like, you know, like unite people by saying, like, you know, fucking a couch is pretty weird, right? I would say the overwhelming majority of the public agrees with that. Seems, I don't know, seems okay. Seems like a good strategy.
The country ever brought up. The challenges, apparently, according to Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, the big challenges are that Obamacare might get repealed. That's like the big challenge. The big challenge is that Donald Trump might ban abortion, which, of course, he has said he is not going to do and has no interest in doing. And
yeah, you know, Donald Trump says a lot of things Most of them are lies. You know, like, he'll do whatever, like, the people with the most influence in his cabinet tell him to do, because he doesn't actually have, like, strong political beliefs, you know? So he's just going to do, like, whatever will, like, drive the most support. Now, I think banning abortion wouldn't do that, but I don't see any reason to think that, like, he's, like, principally against it.
At no point was there any talk about fixing the economy. Apparently, the big threat to the economy is the Donald Trump tax cuts, according to Tim Walz. And if those...
Yeah, that's true. Those were bad for the economy. Yeah. Certainly bad for most people in the economy, but, you know, giant tax cuts don't do anything good for the economy. Not the kind that Trump did, right? The ones that like 90% of the benefits go to corporations. Those are bad for the economy. And of course, just allow corporations to just consolidate their power and do things like lobby the government, you know, which Ben is all for, by the way. Don't tax those corporations and fund programs that'll help the public. Nope. Give them a tax break, which won't drive any investment because there's no incentive to invest by these giant corporations if you give them a tax break, because of course capital investment is tax deductible. So actually, if you tax them more, their incentive is to actually invest and then write it off on their taxes. If you don't, you give them a giant tax break, they're just going to pocket it and do stock buybacks or whatever else. Totally unproductive economically, right? But of course, to Ben, you know, that's all, like, these are the winners. So they deserve more. They've won in the myth of meritocracy that Ben has created in his head.
Those tax cuts were to continue, people might be able to keep more of their own money, and that is a serious, serious problem.
The way those tax cuts worked out is actually working class people, on average, ended up paying more in taxes because, of course, you know, you got to get the revenue from somewhere. And of course, you know, the small tax break that working class people got on the surface was for 10 years, and the tax cuts for people in the higher tax brackets were, of course, indefinite, you know.
Kamala Harris out there, no mention of the fact the Middle East is on fire, no mention of foreign policy, no mention of exactly why the Biden administration seems to have taken the side of Iran in the Middle East. None of that, of course.
Yeah, dude. Biden hasn't been very supportive of Israel, you know? He just sent them like another, like, however many $billion aid package, but he's siding with Iran in this conflict, you know? I know Israel has, like, displaced and starved millions of people and has killed maybe hundreds of thousands, mostly civilians. And Biden's been like, hey, you know, try not to do that. And that's him, like, taking Iran's side in the conflict. I mean, this is insane, you know? This is an insane position to hold. Like, Biden's like, okay, we're going to withhold the 2,000-pound bombs. And Ben's like, Joe Biden basically is a radical jihadist. Like, fuck me. Also, is Ben sitting here, like, chastising Harris and Walz for not discussing policy enough? Did you watch the RNC? What policy proposals were discussed there? Literally none. The entire RNC, every speaker got up there and was just all culture war all the time. Like, it was just them being like, fucking immigrants are invading the country and pretty soon they're going to bring about the downfall of the West, and it's going to be anarchy in the streets, like that's all it was. And then their policy position was like, yeah, round them up, put them in camps, and then like ship them away. That was it. There was no policy discussion at the RNC. What policies does Trump talk about at his rallies, when he goes on like a 15-minute tangent about how like we had the best water when I was the president, we had the best water. The water came out of the sink, plenty of pressure, plenty of water pressure. Now you turn on the shower, there's no water pressure, you can't even wash your hair. Like what policy was that? I don't know, Ben, like you might want to look in the mirror on that one. The one like policy that the Republicans are associated with is Project 2025, and they immediately had to like distance themselves from it disingenuously because they fucking know that is all of it is unpopular as fuck. The public doesn't want the shit that's in Project 2025. Like,
no serious dealing with issues. And that is the theme of this campaign. In the end, that's the theme of this campaign. Ignore everything. Ignore all of the activities of the Biden campaign and the Biden-Harris administration. Ignore all of it. Ignore Tim Walz's tenure as governor. Ignore all of it. They are casting a TV show. And in this TV show, you have the very charming Kamala Harris.
As opposed to Trump, the actual like reality TV show star who definitely isn't treating this like who definitely in 2016 wasn't treating this as like a way to just kind of like get some eyeballs on him.
Who apparently is filled with joy. That's the other thing that we learned here. So you got the words unity and you got a lot of joy. According to Tim Walz, Kamala Harris is not weird. Right? That crazy laughter, that stuff, not weird. That's joy. The weird dancing and the strange motions, no, that's not weird. That's joy. And if you don't...
Yep. Trump, never been spotted on camera doing a like weird like locked knee dance, That's never happened.
Understand that it's joy. It's because you don't understand joy. Okay. So again, all of this is pablum. It's crap. It's insulting crap for people who actually follow politics. But what I fear is that most Americans do not follow politics. And this is why, once again, it is incumbent on the Trump campaign to remind Americans of who these people are. Nobody has ever heard of Tim Walz. They don't know that he presided over the burning down of Minneapolis. They do not understand that Tim Walz, who had people chanting, mind your own business at this rally, literally forced everyone to close their business in the state of Minnesota during...
Oh, no. When we had the pandemic, some businesses had to close. Oh, no. That thing that every other state did, including red states, in the beginning of the pandemic, because people were dropping dead. That it is funny that these fucking idiots haven't like that they still harp on this point, because if you would have listened to them in 2020, like if you would have like listened to Ben Shapiro, in like 2021, you would have thought that like Democratic governors were like instituting Stalinism as we speak. The businesses are never going to reopen. You're never going to get to take off the mask. You're going to be like perennially sick because you got the jab, and then how much of that shit panned out? And then all that shit was lifted, and they were like, and none of them had to like face any accountability for saying all that shit, And then they still say it now. They're still like, they still harp on it as if they weren't fucking wrong about everything during COVID.
The pandemic. He was one of the worst lockdown governors in America. It's up to Donald Trump and team to remind people of that. The media are not going to do it. And as much as conservatives like I will complain.
Of course, the dichotomy here is Ben is like fear-mongering about how, they shut down businesses during a pandemic, as opposed to what Tim Walz was talking about, which is people like Ben insisting that the state should get to decide what women do with their bodies if they become pregnant. Those are equal amounts of needing to stay out of people's business, Because, of course, the thing that Ben is advocating for isn't a temporary measure during a global pandemic. It's an indefinite use of state power to tell women what they can do when they become pregnant.
That the media are not doing their job. Of course they're not doing their job. Because what we think their job is, to do journalism, is not what they think their job is, which is to provide cover for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz long enough that they enter the White House. So let's not make a mistake about it.
Yep. Ben, definitely Ben, just stating the facts here, Ben reacts? No. Ben facts. No partisan sophistry coming from Ben. If you watch Ben, you'll get nothing but a totally factual account of why actually conservatism is the only way to do politics. And it's the only good way to do politics. And also, if you aren't, you're a godless, degenerate who doesn't know what you're talking about.
The Tim Walz pick, it's going to have a lot of vulnerabilities that Trump can attack, but Trump has to do the attacking. There's certainly enthusiasm. There's certainly talent on the left side of the aisle. People forget that Kamala Harris on the stump can be quite good. We've seen so many clips of her being a weirdo that it's easy to forget that she actually got ahead in politics by being pretty good on the stump, at least from 2019 on or so. She hasn't met the road yet. The rubber has not met the road. She's not been asked a tough question. But Republicans are going to have to do that. I don't want to open my YouTube and see 100 Kamala Harris, Tim Walz ads. The Trump campaign needs to be dumping hundreds of millions of dollars into introducing the Harris-Walz team, the radical duo, the bail out the rioters from prison candidate, and the governor who didn't want to put them in prison in the first place. They need to introduce that team to the American people because it's the only...
Is that the governor's decision? The governor decides who goes to prison? I don't think that's how that works.
The team the American people see is the team that was at that rally. That's very good news for Democrats.
Okay. Well, that was a bit more of a frothing at the mouth, panicked reaction than I would have assumed. I mean, Ben is always tweaking, but he seemed really antsy in that video. No, is that just me? Even more than usual? That imitation of Kamala's laugh looked like just his laugh. If Ben actually laughs, I don't know if I've ever seen him do it. That's why he hates the joy thing so much, because Ben hates everything and everyone. And he wants you all to suffer,